being held today in honor of the memory of George Floyd, the man whose death sparked national outrage and a renewed call for change. And what you're looking at on the right side of your screen is a live picture from Cadman Plaza in Brooklyn, where a memorial that was scheduled for 1 o'clock is just now getting underway. We understand it began with a moment of silence. We heard the governor just a little bit earlier today in his briefing call for a moment of silence in memory of George Floyd. He timed it to coincide with the beginning of a memorial for George Floyd and his family in Minneapolis, which is scheduled to begin at 2 o'clock. That is the scene on the left side of your screen, and you can see there it's just now looking like they're getting ready to start. There is a speaker there. On the right side of your screen in Brooklyn, there's music. We earlier heard chanting from a crowd more than 1,000 strong. A little bit later, they're going to finish the memorial service in Brooklyn, and then all of them en masse walk across the Brooklyn Bridge. It's about a 1.5 mile walk to Foley Square, where they will continue their memorial and protest service. As we look at the left side of the screen, obviously it has begun. We understand it's going to be well attended by members of the George Floyd family. In addition to some celebrities, though, they did not make a guest list public, so we have no idea exactly who will be in attendance, but it will be, we're told, an all-star crowd. Amy Klobuchar is there. Reverend Jesse Jackson is there as well, but that's about the extent of who we know who is attending the memorial in Minneapolis. I believe, do we want to take one of these live? Let's listen to some that sound of one of these memorials, and we'll see. We'll go back and forth as soon as things get underway. But let's take a listen to what's happening at Cadman Plaza in Brooklyn in memory of George Floyd. See Mayor de Blasio. He arrived just about 10 minutes ago in the crowd. He's wearing his face covering, his hands up in a peace sign, waiting to speak at this memorial. It is being hosted by the Reverend Kevin McCall, a longtime civil rights leader, but the star in attendance is the brother of George Floyd, Terrence Floyd, who actually lives in Brooklyn, and that obviously is the reason why they are having this particular memorial today in Brooklyn. But the crowd, some 1,000 strong, perhaps more, it is filled with people who want to pay their respects. It's about 10.5 acres at Cadman Plaza, and looks like it is packed. Unfortunately, during this pandemic, social distancing is not really being observed. It would be impossible, obviously. We can only hope these folks are wearing proper PPE, or at least face coverings, to protect themselves. But this is a moment that was almost impossible to resist. It is a moment in history. This is a time when civil rights leaders say, for the first time in their lives, they honestly believe that substantive change is in the air. They've been fighting for so long against police brutality, social injustice that has plagued black citizens in this country since the days of slavery. But they say this time feels different. This time, maybe they will see some positive change. Whether there's the political will to accomplish that change remains to be seen, but people throughout the country, from Washington, D.C., from Minneapolis, certainly, and from coast to coast, politicians are heeding the call, and already we're seeing a ban on chokeholds, which is going to be passed in the legislature, and this is the scene in Brooklyn right now. And once again, we're waiting for the memorial to begin in Minneapolis, and the folks are seated and in attendance, and it should be imminent. Let's listen in.
justice. We thank Pastor Wright and New York Fellowship Choir. This time I would like to present to you our host, civil rights leader, Reverend Kevin McCall, and Brother Kevin Livingston of 100 Suits. Let's receive them as they come. No justice! No justice! Peace on the left, justice on the right. Peace on the left, peace on the left, peace on the left. We are here today to pay homage to the life and the legacy of George Floyd. Say his name. 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 In that same image, we must respect George Floyd. You must respect the family of George Floyd. No one is higher than the family of George Floyd. No one. Family is first. Without his family, there won't be no George Floyd. So you have to respect George Floyd. George Floyd represents peace. He was a godly man, a gentle giant, and we must keep his memory as such. I'll speak more later. To that regard, the speaker that you will hear next, I want you to respect by not booing. I want you to respect because that's the memory of George Floyd. That's what George Floyd would want. He would not be booing. So respect George Floyd. Let us welcome, with respect, the mayor of New York City, Mayor Bill de Blasio, and First Lady Shagreen McCray. Again, we said respect. We said respect. Say with me, respect. 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 Respect.
No justice. Power to the people. First, I want to offer condolences to Terrence Floyd and the whole Floyd family. Please, let's all thank him for being here with us today. No family should have to endure what this family has endured. Our country is in need of a rebirth, and birth is painful. millions of mothers like me share fear for the lives of our children. We fear for their lives, and we also fear for their ability to live with dignity. There is no one here who wants us to go back to things the way they were, do we? Do we? Do we? I don't want that. We have so much we need to do going forward, but we have the power. Look at all of you. Look at all of us. We are making a statement today. We are making a statement every day that we stand out and shout and protest and march. We have power that we didn't even know we had. Black Lives Matter. 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 And we cannot, I say we cannot turn away from this pain, the trauma, the anger. We need to challenge that, all of that, into creating the kind of world that we need, the kind of world that we want, the kind of world that we deserve. Can we do that together? I said, can we do that? I don't hear you. I don't hear you. Can we do it? Where is the energy? All right. All right, we're going to hear from my partner in all things. And I ask you to give him the same respect that you give him me. Okay. All right. Thank you.
Reverend McCall, thank you. Terrence. Reverend McCall, thank you for your leadership. Thank you for bringing us together. Thank you to everyone who organized. Terrence, to you and the whole Floyd family, God bless you. God bless you. To everybody, here is what we must resolve. George Floyd cannot have been allowed to die in vain. We have to make a change in this city and this country. I thank you. I thank you for being here for a change, to build a change. But let me tell you something. For all of us who have not walked a mile in the shoes of the black community or communities of color, for all of us who know white privilege, we need to do more because we don't even fully recognize the daily pain that the racism in this society causes. We need to do more. We will. So it will not be about words in this city. It will be about change. Change in the NYPD. It will be about change that you can see and believe, because you will see it with your own eyes. That's what we must make. Anything short of that is not enough. We will make peaceful change in this city once and for all. Keep fighting for that change. To the Floyd family, we stand with you. Black lives matter in New York City. Black lives need to matter in America. Thank you to the Floyd family, and God bless you.
Say his name. Say his name. Say his name. Put your black fist up in the air. Say his name. Say his name. Let's remember why we're here. Let's remember why we're here. I'm here to support my brother, Terrence, whose brother is George Floyd. We're here to support him and his family at his time. It is not about us. It is about supporting the family. If you are here to do otherwise, please leave the park. Because we're here to support the family, and that's it. We're going to march in peace, and we're going to live in peace. I would like to bring up our next speaker. She is a warrior fighter for our community. We're very proud of her. Give it up for Brooklyn's own, our Attorney General, Letitia James.
Say his name. Say his name. Say his name. Say his name. To the family and to Terrence, I pray that you take some comfort in knowing that an entire generation and an entire nation grieves with you. That an entire generation of warriors are praying with their feet. Please know, Terrence, that as we struggle for justice, that you and your family are not alone, that righteousness and our God are with you, that the cries for justice and change is now being heard all across this nation. And that change is coming, stirred by the forces marching and protesting peacefully, fueled by the passions of all of your convictions to justice. All of you are consumed with love, concerned about truth, and committed to justice. And all of you recognize the futility of violence in the struggle for racial equality. And so we march and we pray that the spark that ignited the fires of change that have always simmered but have never fully flamed throughout our nation's history burn bright in the hearts of all of you who believe in God's love for one another, that all of us are part of one human family and we're all of God's children. You see, I pray that Gianna, George's precious daughter, carries the loving memory of her father with her always, and that she not be embittered by the injustice that is taking him away too soon, that she joins with all of the other daughters whose fathers were also killed by the hands and arms and knees and bullets of indifference. That my little sisters, these daughters of the movement, grow to add their own loving light to the fire of freedom and equality and justice and fundamental human rights for all people. You see, let us be reminded today of Dr. King, reminded that he once said that power is the strength required to bring about social, political, and economic change, that power at its best is love, implementing the demands of justice. And justice at its best is correcting everything and everybody who stands in our way. So my family and all of you, march, march, march with a greater determination, a renewed focus, with powerful and determinative outcomes. Challenge, please walk and protest and march during these powerful and challenging days. All of us must be committed to crossing every bridge that would divide us, connecting us to a bright new day. And as I close, family, all of the young people out there, you all know that every change in this country has started with young people, not politicians, but young people. Every movement, every struggle, it's young people standing up for democracy and freedom. And so to my young warriors and to the family, march until the stagnant and intractable walls of racism come down. Walls that separate us, walls that separate us must be crushed to the ground by the forces of love and justice. So march, family, march, Terrence, march, all of you, and march, because when we march, we will see George on the other side of the mountain. Amen.
No justice! No justice! No justice! Say his name! Say his name! Say his name! In the warrior spirit, we're gonna bring up our good brother. Somebody's been on the front line with us for many, many years. Give it up for our public advocate, Jumaane Williams. Give it up for him, y'all.
Peace and blessings, everybody. Love and light. I came up here and I asked my mother, Patricia Williams, to stand with me. I've been marching with my mother for a long time. I remember 2000, we marched for Patrick Dorismond. I remember my mother buying me the little black book to tell me how to get through encounters with police officers. And so I'm proud that my mother can stand here with me, see me trying my best to push forward all the things she instilled with me when I was young, and I wanted to publicly say thank you. Everybody say I'm not okay. Everybody say I'm not okay. I want to make some space for the people who are most affected right now. Just the people who are most affected say, I'm not okay. I'm not okay. I say that because very often the people who are most affected have to see these images and go back to work as if nothing has happened. They have to continue their day. And if they dare speak up, particularly black women, they are looked at as just angry black women. And I want to make sure you have the space as a human being to say you are not okay. There are some people who want to come up here and tell you to march in a way that doesn't make people uncomfortable. There are some people who want to tell you to march, but use the directions and instructions that they gave you. There's people who want to tell you to march, but say, please, don't disrupt the status quo. But they forget that the people who have been affected the most have been uncomfortable for 400 and 500 years. All we are saying, if one person is comfortable, we all should be comfortable. But if one person isn't, we all shouldn't rest. The cry has been and always will be no justice, no peace. You are immorally inept if you ask for peace without justice. So many of us haven't had the time to heal from one video, and they keep coming and coming and coming and coming. And I got to remind you, and I know we're here for the brother George Floyd, and I thank you. Peace and blessings to our brother. But before that was Ahmaud Arbery, before that was Breonna Taylor, before that was Samir Rice, before that was Eric Garner. We don't have enough time for all the names. People came out of their house because a pandemic led by inept leaders like this mayor and this governor caused tens of thousands of people to die, and most of them are black and brown. That was on their chest too. They say we're doing these things because we want to protect you. Where were you when there were rats and roaches in NYCHA and people couldn't sleep? Where were you when cops were killing people unarmed? Where were you when our educational system was broken? Where were you when we needed jobs? Now you care about people's lives. And every time this was brought up, you sent more police. You sent more laws to cause the interactions to be more stressful. So then we started protesting about all of those police and those laws, and you send more police and more laws. I hear the mayor and the governor saying we have to do what we have to do to protect property. We want to make sure we protect property. The governor goaded the mayor. They're not doing what they need to do to protect property. I want to say this as a citywide elected official. We must protect property. We must make sure people feel safe. But where is the same energy for Black lives? Why are you not saying we have to do everything we can to protect Black lives? Why are you not saying, here is the plan that I have, because Black lives are not mattering in New York City, in New York State, in this country? Where is that leadership? This is supposed to be the progressive beacon of this country, and we are failing. We have the wrong president, we have the wrong governor, and we have the wrong mayor for these times that we're in right now. I thank all of you who are here in the best tradition of Kingian nonviolence, but don't confuse nonviolence with not disrupting the status quo that exists. We must always, always comfort the afflicted, but in order to get justice, we must afflict the comfortable. This is a beautiful mosaic. I thank everyone who's here, Black, white, Asian, Muslim, Jewish, Christian, screaming out, Black Lives Matter. Thank you so much. I want to shout out to Black women whose mothers, their mortality rate, maternal mortality rate is higher than everyone because people don't believe their pain. This is what Black people are dealing with in this country. Don't let up. Keep going. Keep marching. Let them feel the pain of Black people and the people who love them.
The people who say, that's my brother.
A fiery speech there from Public Advocate Jumaane Williams, and he is talking at the memorial service for George Floyd at Cadman Plaza in Brooklyn, and the place is packed, some 10.5 acres, not spare space in the entire location there. We want to take you live now to the scene in Minneapolis where the memorial service for George Floyd and his family has just begun, and we're going to listen in right now.
On behalf of the university, on behalf of Dr. Scott Hagan, President, on behalf of the Board of Regents, on behalf of the faculty, we're so grateful that you're here with us today. And we're honored that you have come to mourn the loss and celebrate the life of Mr. George Floyd. On behalf of everyone here, I want to personally express our deepest condolences for this tragic loss. Now, to open this service, this celebration of his life, we will have a scripture reading from Reverend Jerry McAfee, pastor of New Salem Missionary Baptist Church, followed by an opening prayer from Dr. Scott Hagan, president of North Central University, and a solo by Mrs. Tawana Porter.
On behalf of the pastors and preachers from Minneapolis and St. Paul, the Bloods on the south side, Gangster Disciples and Vice Lords on the north side, Psalm 27. The Lord is my light and my salvation. Whom shall I fear? The Lord is the strength of my life. Of whom shall I be afraid? When the wicked, even mine enemies and my foes, came upon me to eat up my flesh, they stumbled and fell. Though an host should encamp against me, my heart shall not fear. The war should rise against me, in this will I be confident. One thing have I desired of the Lord, that will I seek after, that I may dwell in the house of the Lord all the days of my life, to behold the beauty of the Lord and to inquire in his temple. For in the time of trouble he shall hide me in his pavilion, and the secret of his tabernacle shall he hide me. He shall set me up upon a rock.
Just once again, on behalf of North Central University, I want to welcome the Floyd family to our campus. This is truly an undeserved honor for our university. I've been praying all week that this sacred space would become a table of healing for the Floyd family, for the city of Minneapolis, and for the world that is grieving beyond these walls. In just a moment, I want to offer a brief prayer. But before I offer that brief prayer, I just want to announce, as president of this school, the institution of the George Floyd Memorial Scholarship. Even before announcing this scholarship yesterday, unsolicited, over $53,000 was handed to me to contribute toward the educational promise of aspiring young Black American leaders. But here's what I really want to say. Far beyond North Central University, I am now challenging every university president in the United States of America to establish your own George Floyd Memorial Scholarship Fund. So people across this nation can give to the college of their choice. It is time to invest like never before in a new generation of young Black Americans who are poised and ready to take leadership on our nation. So university presidents, let's step up together. I want to invite you now to pray with me, if you will.
Lord, your word in Proverbs 31 is dynamically clear. It says to speak up for those who cannot speak for themselves. Ensure justice for those being crushed. Yes, speak up for the poor and the helpless and see that they get justice. Lord, we are asking today for you to take this table of healing here in Minneapolis today and multiply this healing all over this nation as part of that now never fading voice crying out on behalf of those who have been and who are now being crushed in body and spirit. At this table of healing today, Lord, we ask that you touch the Floyd family with supernatural comfort and grace, that they may be granted a few moments of respite as their beloved father and brother and son is remembered in a way that honors his life and his personal faith in Jesus Christ. At this table of healing, we are asking you, Lord, to show us the way. Our city and nation are becoming rightfully despondent, with neighbor set against neighbor. Help us to repent, not just seek to restore. As a nation, as cities, as universities, and as religious communities, heal, make new, and help us, oh Lord, rebuild our national family. And finally, Lord, at this table of healing today, we are asking you to search our hearts as pastors, rabbis, priests, imams, business leaders, politicians, and educators. Help us reconcile our failed witness and lead us forward as caring neighbors and diligent gatekeepers of mutuality and mercy. Guide this generation to change the national narrative on race and power, and change all of our hearts until they match your heart. We ask all of these things in the name above all names, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now I'm found. Was blind, but now I see. 'Twas grace that taught my heart to fear, and grace my fears relieve. How precious is that appear the hour I first believed. Praise God.
Wonderful, 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 wonderful. Yes, yes. Thank you, thank you, thank you. We're going to have the opportunity now to hear in just a moment from loved ones, friends, and family of George Floyd. But before that, I would like to welcome to the podium Attorney Benjamin Krupp for his remarks. Would you please welcome him? Thank you.
I'm Attorney Ben Crump, and along with Attorney Tony Romanucci and Attorney Chris Stewart, as my co-counsels out front seeking justice for the family of George Floyd, along with a lot of other great attorneys who are working in the background, who I will mention briefly before we bring up the ones who knew George Floyd all of his life. I want to thank lawyers towing in the vineyards like Devin Jacob, Chris O'Neill, Lee Merritt, Darrell Parks, Jasmine Rand, Bill Pentas, and Carol Powell Lexon, because you may see Tony and Chris and I, but it's a whole team of lawyers who are working, because it's going to take a united effort fighting in the courtroom and outside the courtroom to get justice for George Floyd. I would tell you all that because of the coronavirus pandemic, we have to stay on a strict schedule, and we all have to do this social distancing. But I want to just put it on the record, Reverend Al, that it was not the coronavirus pandemic that killed George Floyd. I want to make it clear on the record. Will Packard, it was that other pandemic that we're far too familiar with in America, that pandemic of racism and discrimination.
We are leaving Minneapolis to take you back to Brooklyn, where the brother of George Floyd, Terrence Floyd, is speaking. All right, we obviously have some technical difficulties there, but you're looking at Terrence Floyd, the brother of George Floyd. This is a memorial in honor of his brother, and obviously he's feeling very emotional right now. He was supposed to appear at a service at the House of the Lord Church yesterday in Brooklyn, but at the last minute he was not able to come. We were told he was overcome with emotion. Obviously feeling the grief so painful at this moment. We saw him last week visiting the site where his brother was killed in Minneapolis, and he was so overcome he collapsed in grief in memory of his brother, seeing the exact site where his brother's life was snuffed out. And hopefully we can get the sound so that you can hear what he's saying. But again, this memorial was organized in honor of his brother's memory. It is attended by more than 1,000 people now in Cadman Plaza, Brooklyn. And when it is finished, the crowd is going to gather and walk across the Brooklyn Bridge, where they will reconvene in Foley Square in Manhattan for a protest. These are two memorials for George Floyd coinciding. We were just at all right, now, yes, we have, that is Terrence Floyd there in Brooklyn, but we're going to take you back to Minneapolis, where George Floyd's other brother, Philonise, is getting ready to speak, or he's speaking right now. Let's listen in.
Like 10 or 11, I'm talking about the
plate with 6 pieces of chicken is mine, and he way bigger than me. You know what I mean? He's huge. So, man, from that, being in the house with my brother, man, it was just like inspiring to other people, because my mom used to take in other kids, and most of them was George's friends, and they wanted to stay with her. They loved her, you know? And my brother, he was okay with it. So then you had 3, to me, they were grown then, because they kicked me out the room. They were 3 men, like 16, 17, they grown, sleeping in the same bed, waking up, going to the same school. And they wouldn't leave each other at all. They always wanted to be with each other at all times. And I remember nights when the day before school, we didn't have a washing machine. So we would all go in and put our socks and underwear in a bathroom sink and just start washing them. If we didn't have detergent, we would use soap. But we would wash it. We were going to be clean. We were going to be clean. So we would literally, right after that, we would take the socks and hang them over the hot water heater. And we'd take the underwear and hang them over there. And we would fight about it, me and his friends and all of them. You're like, no, you did it last night, because your clothes probably still be damp the next day if you don't put it on the hot water heater. So from that, and we learned a lot of stuff, but it's crazy because we didn't have a dryer. So the fastest way to dry your clothes was to put it in the oven and let it dry faster like that. So it was just, man, I love my brother, man. We had so many memories, you know, together. I remember him waking me up, telling me, hey, man, can you iron my clothes for me? And I look at him, but then I look at his size and I say, you right, big bro, you right. You know what I mean? It was just amazing. Everywhere you go and see people, how they cling to him. They wanted to be around him. You know, George, he was like a general. Every day he walks outside, it'd be a line of people, just like when we came in, wanting to greet him and wanted to have fun with him. Guys that was doing drugs, like smokers and homeless people, you couldn't tell, because when you spoke to George, they felt like they was the president, because that's how he made you feel. He was powerful, man. He had a way with words. He could always make you ready to jump and go all the time. Everybody loved George. We didn't call him George. We called him Perry. If you called him Perry, you knew him direct, you know what I mean? Because George was the name, everybody called him Big George, Big Floyd, you know, Georgie Porgy. He had so many different names. But I'm going to go ahead and let...
Go ahead. I'm not stopping you. Go ahead.
I'm just, man, it's crazy, man. All these people came to see my brother, and that's amazing to me that he touched so many people's hearts, you know, because he been touching our hearts, you know. You come to Third Ward, where we're from, people are crying right now. That's how much they love them. You know, I'm just staying strong as I can, because I need to get it out. I need to get it out. Everybody wants justice. We want justice for George. He's going to get it. He's going to get it.
We're gonna get it.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm just going to echo some of the things that Falon has talked about, and that is that we come from a long line of large family members. Our mothers were siblings of 13. And if I can kind of fast forward a little bit, my aunt she lived in Houston, and she would always talk about being there, not having any of the siblings close to her. So my mother decided to move to the Houston area back early 80, 81. And so we came to Houston, and we were all excited that we could have somebody close to us, because the only time we really would see each other is like during the holidays or when people would travel to visit my grandmother. Long story short, I mean, we didn't have a whole lot, but we always had each other. And we always were taught that, you know, we could always bring other people into the fold. Always, no one should ever go home without having a meal or having food. And so that's how, as he talked about, my aunt was someone in the community that everybody, they called her Miss Sissy. And all of the kids loved to come over there. And she ended up having, 30 or 40 kids that would come over there because they always knew that they could get something to eat if they came there. And not only food, but they could be loved and they could feel part of a fold. So we were raised to always welcome people in and to embrace other people. And so you could see as all these people, no matter who you talk to, they will all say the same thing, and that George was somebody who was always welcoming, always made people feel like that they were special, and nobody felt left out. And he would enter into a room. Everybody would feel like they were special. He would embrace them. As I think about the thing that I would miss about him most is his hugs. Like, he was this great big giant, and when he would wrap his arms around you, you would just feel like, you were, everything could just go away. Any problems you had, any concerns you had would go away. So while we're all grieving, I just want to kind of highlight his children, Quincy, Javion, Tanjanika, Tyson, and Gianna, and his 3-year-old granddaughter, Journey. We all need prayer, but if I am honest about it, we are more concerned about his children and his grandchildren. So I ask that you pray for us as we go along this marathon to make sure that justice is served on George's behalf, or Perry as we call him. I ask that you pray for us and especially for their children. Thank you.
How y'all doing? I am Rodney Floyd, youngest brother of George Floyd. And my older brother PJ was talking about childhood memories and how we grew up. And I would like to start where he left off. We didn't have much growing up, but all that great stuff, how we dried and washed our clothes, that was just ingenuity. And I mean, hey, we worked with what we had, but didn't have much, but we had a house full of love. And I mean, I appreciate the love of everyone in here in the state of Minneapolis. Y'all adopted my brother and showed him so much love, and we feel that love in your city, and thankfully everybody and plus around the world. It's a beautiful thing, this great love we're receiving, and George Floyd is receiving, because he would love it. I wish he was here in the presence, in the flesh, to see it, because all this great unity, he would bring in the tears like it's bringing us. But share fun remembering my brother, Big Floyd, as y'all know. Oh, cooking-wise, he would make me, honestly, him and the other brothers, 3 gentlemen my brother mentioned grew up in our household. They would say, "Little bro, you make the best grilled cheese. Can you please go make us one?" I mean, if I tell y'all as a little 6 or 7-year-old kid, I did that numerous times. I realized as I got older, y'all just using me. But I was just happy to be doing it. But my big brother, I mean, great guy, great gentleman, great man, and as a child, without no father figure, he was big brother, but I didn't see the little stuff they were throwing out. He was doing the best he can, and the mistakes he made, and I, watching them, following him, corrected myself as a grown man, as a teenager growing up, and, learning from him how to be a man, and everything he instilled us and taught us. He was doing him, but he was teaching us how to be a man, because he was in this world already before us. And he gave us a lot of great lessons. And I mean, one thing about a man, keep the definition as is. Floyd, responsibility. He would stand up for his family and friends, and he's great at that. And I want you guys to know that he would stand up for any injustice everywhere. And, can y'all please say his name? Thank y'all. Oh my God. Thank you.
I'm Brandon Williams, I'm George's nephew. I call him Perry. We happen to share the same middle name for some reason. My mama wanted to name all of us after some of her siblings, and coincidentally, I ended up with George. Growing up, I'm a lot younger than them, but my grandmother raised me. I didn't have a father figure present in my life, so I grew up in the same house with them. And, you know, my uncles were more of a father figure in my life. And with Perry being the alpha male, you know, I gravitated to him. Coming up, I played sports. He did. And, you know, they kind of connected us and brought us real close. I'm trying not to be sad. This is a lot harder than I thought it would be. I just remember just all of the memories, man. So more than anything, I just want to say thank you to him, just for being there, just being a real, genuine person, just being loving and caring, and somebody I can count on no matter what. We didn't have much, but coming up, my grandmother tried her best, and wherever she selected, he picked it up for me. He made sure I had sneakers and clothes and a lot of stuff like that, and I appreciate that. I'm gonna end it with a funny story about he was the biggest LeBron James fan, and I remember, I don't know if you guys are familiar with the NBA, but when the Cavaliers, they came back on the Golden State Warriors in the finals, and I remember the very first phone call, and I told him, "Unc, man, you too happy. You sound like you won a championship." And we laughed about it, and you know, he said, "Man, you know how I feel about LeBron. I did win a championship." So, and every time we would talk, you know, I asked him, like, "Hey, how you doing, man? You good?" And he said, "I feel like I won a championship." And that kind of stuck. It was just this inside thing we had. So I know with him being the strong person he was and seeing everybody come together and just rally around him and extend all of the love and support to our family. And man, we thankful and grateful. And I know more than anything, with everybody grieving and hurting, he would want us to feel like we won the championship. So I'll end on that note. Thank y'all.
Y'all, please give his family another round of applause. Please show them love. Show them love. Thank you all so much for bearing your hearts. If we learned one thing, the Floyd boys like to eat. And also, they had a conversation with Tyler Perry, and it was pretty profound because they said, "We are the big extended black family that you portray, Will Packard and others, on your movie screens, because we all need one another." And you can tell this family always needed George. And so it's awfully difficult for them. The plea for justice is simply this. Dr. Martin Luther King said, "He who passively accepts evil is as much involved in it as he who helps to perpetrate it. He who accepts evil without protesting against it is really like cooperating with it." You know, T.I., on that video, what we saw was torture. Reverend Jackson, what we saw in that video was inhumane. Martin III, what we saw in that video was evil. And so America, we proclaim, as we memorialize George Floyd, do not cooperate with evil. Protest against evil. Join the young people in the streets protesting against the evil, the inhumane, the torture that they witnessed on that video. We cannot cooperate with evil. We cannot cooperate with injustice. We cannot cooperate with torture. Because George Floyd deserved better than that. We all deserve better than that. His family deserved better than that. His children deserve better than that. Steve, all George wanted from life is what any of us want. As Thomas Jefferson said in the Declaration of Independence, the unalienable rights endowed by our Creator, Tyrese, to life, liberty, and the pursuit to be happy on this earth. That's all George was asking for, like any and all of us. But he was denied those rights. And we will seek justice in his name. We will all, united as a people who are God's children, seek justice in his name. But beyond the specific justice, in his case, Chris, the prosecution of the 4 individuals who deprived George of his life, we seek a broader, more transformative justice. Reverend Al, a more just system of policing. Kevin, a more just treatment of people of color. Chris, a more just criminal justice system. In essence, what we are endeavoring to do, Brandon, is what my personal hero, Marshall, said. Make the Constitution real for all Americans. You see, Justice Marshall said, the basis of the Constitution is simply this, that a black baby born to a black mother, the most uneducated black mother, the most inarticulate black mother, the most impoverished black mother, has the same exact rights as a white baby born to a white mother, the most educated white mother, the most articulate white mother, has the most affluent white mother, just by virtue of that baby drawing its first breath as an American. Now, Justice Marshall said, Reverend Jackson, I know that's not the case in America today, but I challenge anybody to say, Tony, that's not the goal we're fighting for. He said, I challenge anybody to say, that's not what makes America the great beacon of hope and justice for all the world to marvel. So when we fight for the George Floyds of the world, but more importantly, when we fight for the unknown George Floyds of the world, when we fight for the Trayvon Martins of the world, when we fight for the Terrence Crutches of the world, when we fight for the Michael Browns of the world, when we fight for the Alton Sterlings of the world, when we fight for the Philando Castillos of the world, when we fight for the Jamar Clarks of the world, when we fight for the Eric Gardners of the world, when we fight for the Sandra Blands of the world, when we fight for the Ahmaud Arbery's of the world, when we fight for the Breonna Taylors of the world, when we fight for the Natasha McKinney's of the world, when we fight for the Stephon Clarks of the world, when we fight for the least of these, what we are really doing is helping America live up to its creed. What we're really doing is helping America be the great beacon of hope and justice for all the world to marvel. But most importantly, brothers and sisters, what we are doing is helping America be America for all Americans. What we want, T.I., is not 2 justice systems in America, one for Black America, and one for white America. What we endeavor to achieve is equal justice for the United States of America, and George Floyd is the moment that gives us the best opportunity I have seen in a long time of reaching that high ideal that this country was founded on. Thank you so much. This is the plea for justice. On behalf of the family, the children, we will get justice. We are committed to it. Now, I would introduce you to a man who really needs no introduction, who will eulogize George Floyd. He is a man who has fought for so many families that too many hashtags to remember. And when he gets the call, he always answers the call. Even when the cameras aren't around, even after the cameras are gone. Ask Eric Gardner's family. Ask Stephon Clark's family. Ask any of these families. The cameras have long gone, Tony, but Reverend Al continues to answer the bell when our people call. He is a leader that you see on TV commentating about our experiences, but more importantly, he is a leader who has lived our experiences. And because he have lived those experiences, that's what makes him so effective in commentating on MSNBC about our experiences. And he is going to talk about the experience of the terrible loss of somebody who should be with us today, and that is George Floyd. Please give a great round of applause for the Reverend Al Sharpton.
Thank you. I want us to not sit here and act like we had a funeral on the schedule. George Floyd should not be among the deceased. He did not die of common health conditions. He died of a common American criminal justice malfunction. He died because of there has not been the corrective behavior that has taught this country that if you commit a crime, it does not matter whether you wear blue jeans or a blue uniform, you must pay for the crime you commit. So it is not a normal funeral. It is not a normal circumstance, but it's too common, and we need to deal with it. Let me ask those of you that in the traditions of eulogies need a scriptural reference, go to Ecclesiastes 3rd chapter. First verse says, to everything there is a time and a purpose and season under the heavens. I'm going to leave it there. I saw somebody standing in front of a church the other day had been boarded up as a result of violence. Held the Bible in his hand. I've been preaching since I was a little boy. I never seen anyone hold a Bible like that, but I'll leave that alone. But since he held the Bible, if he's watching us today, I would like him to open that Bible. And I'd like him to read Ecclesiastes 3. To every season, there's a time and a purpose. And I think that it is our job to let the world know when we see what is going on in the streets of this country and in Europe, around the world, that you need to know what time it is. First of all, we cannot use Bibles as a prop. And for those that have agendas that are not about justice, this family will not let you use George as a prop. If you want to get your stuff off, don't use him. Let us stand for what is right. Because when I got the call from Attorney Crump, and usually when he calls me, it's not to find out how I'm doing. It's usually because something happened that he wants National Action Network and I to get involved. And he explained to me what was happening with this case. And I'd already heard about it in the media. And immediately I said, well, let me know what you want me to do. He said, whatever you need to do. One of the things, Martin, that I've always had to deal with is critics would say, all Al Sharpton wants is publicity. Well, that's exactly what I want. Because nobody calls me to keep a secret. People call me to blow up issues that nobody else will deal with. I'm the blow up man, and I don't apologize for that. Because you get away too much with hiding things. Funny, it's talked about y'all putting clothes in the oven to have your clothes dried. Well, I didn't grow up in the third world, but I grew up in Third Ward. I grew up in Brownsville, and we had roaches. Now, I know Kevin Hart and some of the rich Hollywood folk here don't know what roaches are, but we had roaches, Ludacris. And one thing I found out about roaches is that if you keep the light off, if you're in the dark, a roach will pull up to your dinner table and have a 5-course meal. So I learned that one of the ways to deal with roaches is if you cut the light on. I could run them roaches and track them down. And I've spent all my life chasing roaches all over this country. As soon as I talked to the family and got the details and heard that among George's last words was, I can't breathe, with a knee on his neck, I immediately thought about Eric Gardner. I did the eulogy at his funeral. And I called his mother. And I said, I know we are not going out because of the coronavirus, but this is so much like Eric. If we could arrange some private way to go to Minneapolis, would you go? And she said, Rev Al, I'm already packing, let me know. Tyler Perry said, I'll give the families, the plane, whatever y'all need, because this is wrong. Robert Smith said, don't worry about the funeral costs. People across economic and racial lines started calling and getting in. And we flew out here, her and I, last Thursday. And when I stood at that spot, reason it got to me is George Floyd's story has been the story of black folks. Because ever since 401 years ago, the reason we could never be who we wanted and dreamed to be in is you kept your knee on our neck. We were smarter than the underfunded schools you put us in, but you had your knee on our neck. We could run corporations and not hustle in the street, but you had your knee on our neck. We had creative skills. We could do whatever anybody else could do, but we couldn't get your knee off our neck. What happened to Floyd happens every day in this country, in education, in health services, and in every area of American life. It's time for us to stand up in George's name and say, get your knee off our necks. That's the problem, no matter who you are. We thought maybe we had a complex, T.I., maybe it was just us. But even blacks that were broke through, you kept your knee on that neck. Michael Jordan won all of these championships, and you kept digging for mess. You got to put a knee on our neck. White housewives would run home to see a black woman on TV named Oprah Winfrey, and you mess with her because you just can't take your knee off our neck. Man comes out of a single-parent home, educates himself, and rises up and becomes the president of the United States. And you ask him for his birth certificate because you can't take your knee off our neck. The reason why we're marching all over the world is we were like George. We couldn't breathe, not because there was something wrong with our lungs, but you wouldn't take your knee off our neck. We don't want no favors. Just get up off of us, and we can be and do whatever we can be. There have been protests all over the world. Some have looted and done other things. And none of us in this family condones looting or violence. But the thing I want us to be real cognizant of is there's a difference between those calling for peace and those calling for quiet. Some of y'all don't want peace. You just want quiet. You just want us to shut up and suffer in silence. The overwhelming majority of the people marching wasn't breaking windows. They were trying to break barriers. They wasn't trying to steal nothing. They were trying to get back the justice you stole from us. Those that broke the law should pay for whatever law they broke, but so should the 4 policemen that caused this funeral today. We don't have a problem denouncing violence, Mr. Governor. We don't have a problem, Mr. Mayor, denouncing looting. But it seems like some in the criminal justice system have a problem looking at a tape and knowing there's probable cause, and it takes a long time for you to go and do what you see that you need to do. But I'm one that has been Crump said. National Action Network and I have been involved in a lot of these fights we started around criminal justice. I did speeches and eulogies at most of the funerals that we've had in this space in the last couple of decades, and led the marches and did what we had to do. I look at Martin III, we went to jail together, fighting these fights, like his daddy went to jail before. But I'm more hopeful today than ever. Why? Well, let me go back. Reverend Jackson always taught me, stay on your text. Go back to my text, Ecclesiastes. There is a time and a season. And when I looked this time and saw marches where in some cases young whites outnumbered the blacks marching, I know that it's a different time and a different season. When I looked and saw people in Germany marching for George Floyd, it's a different time and a different season. When they went in front of the Parliament in London, England, and said it's a different time and a different season, I come to tell you, America, this is the time of dealing with accountability in the criminal justice system. Stephen, years ago, I went to march. Now I remember a young white lady looked me right in the face and said, "Nigga, go home." But when I was here last Thursday, and Miss Carr and I was headed back to the airport, I stopped near the police station. And as I was talking to a reporter, a young white girl, she didn't look no older than 11 years old. She tagged my suit jacket. And I looked around and I braced myself. And she looked at me and said, "No justice, no peace." It's a different time. It's a different season. And if my Bible carrying guy out in front of that boarded up church, if I got him to open up the Bible, I want you to remember something. You know, I was late last October to an appointment because the time changed. And I was still, my watch was on the wrong time. You know, once a year, time goes forward. And if you don't, Congresswoman Omar, move your watch, you're going to find yourself an hour late, not because your watch was wrong, but you had your watch on the wrong time. Well, I come to tell you that are sitting in Washington, talking about militarizing the country, thinking that you can sell wolf tickets to people who's had enough of abuse. I come to tell you, you can get on the TV, but you on the wrong time. Time is out for not holding you accountable. Time is out for you making excuses. Time is out for you trying to stall. Time is out for empty words and empty promises. Time is out for you filibustering and trying to stall the arm of justice. This is the time. We won't stop. We gonna keep going until we change the whole system of justice. Our organizations have called this a day of mourning. NAACP, National Urban League, Legal Defense Fund, Black Women's Roundtable, Lawyers Committee, all got together, said we're going to have a day of mourning. But then we're going to come out this day of mourning. Because as some of our experts, Cheryl Eiffel and others that know the legal field, have outlined a legal process that we must enforce, everything from residency to dealing with police backgrounds not being hidden. I talked to Governor Andrew Cuomo today in New York. He says we got to change 58 where the backgrounds are stopped of policemen. We need to know if they stop you, they find out everything you ever did. Why don't we know when policemen have a pattern? We got to go back to consent decrees. Under the Obama administration, they had put certain cities with patterns and practice under consent decrees. From Jamal Bryant to know we was pastoring there in Baltimore, that they put it under consent decree. One of the first things that happened in the next administration was they stopped the consent decrees. We have specific policies that need to happen. Therefore, I'm glad Martin III is here today, because on August 28th, the 57th anniversary of the March on Washington, we're going back to Washington, Martin. That's where your father stood in the shadows of the Lincoln Memorial and said, I have a dream. Well, we're going back this August 28th to restore and recommit that dream, to stand up, because just like at one era, we had to fight slavery. Another era, we had to fight Jim Crow. Another era, we dealt with voting rights. This is the era to deal with policing and criminal justice. We need to go back to Washington and stand up, black, white, Latino, Arab, in the shadows of Lincoln, and tell them this is the time to stop this. Martin and I talked about this. I've asked Reverend Bryant to get the faith leaders together. I talked Randy Weingart about the labor leaders. Oh no, we're going to organize in the next couple of months in every region, not only for a march, but for a new process. And it's going to be led by the Floyd family. And it's going to be led by the Garner family. And it's going to be led by those families that have suffered this and knows the pain and knows what it is to be neglected. And it's going to be getting us ready to vote not just for who's going to be in the White House, but the State House and the city councils that allow these policing measures to go unquestioned. We are going to change the time. Let me say this to the family who has shown such great grace and real level and balanced thinking. And that's why I want them to help lead this. And I think one of the greatest thinkers of our time, Dr. Michael Eric Dyson, I've asked come and speak. We need to break down, because y'all don't know what time it is. Y'all are operating like it's yesterday. And the reason y'all late catching up to what these protests means is because you didn't turn your clock forward. Talking about make America great. Great for who and great when? We're going to make America great for everybody for the first time. Never was great for blacks. Never was great for Latinos. Wasn't never great for others. Wasn't great for women. Young women had to march to get the right to vote. But lastly is the religious side. I was reading and kept thinking about how I was a little embarrassed, because when I heard that George, at this point of suffering this brutal attack, called for his mama I said to Attorney Crump, I said, well, I appreciate talking to his brothers and them on the phone, but I want to talk to his mother. He said his mother passed. I said his mother passed, but he was calling for his mother. And I thought about it because I was raised by a single mother. And sometimes the only thing between us and our conditions was our mothers. Sometimes the only thing that we had that would take danger away was our mothers. The only ones that would make sure the food was on the table was our mother. I know why George was calling for mama. But then as I had got that all placed in my mind and I realized why I was always calling her. My mother died 8 years ago, but I still try to talk to her. Sometimes just dial a cell phone to hear the voicemail of her phone that I never cut off. I still want to reach out to mama. But talking to Quincy last night, one of his 5 children, Quincy said, you know, I was thinking maybe he was calling his mother. Because at the point that he was dying, his mother was stretching her hands out, saying, come on, George. I'll welcome you where the wicked will cease from troubling, where the weary will be at rest. There's a place where police don't put knees on you, George. There's a place that prosecutors don't drag their feet. Maybe mama said, come on, George. There's a God that still sits high, but he looks down low and he'll make a way out of no way. This God is still on the throne. The reason we can fight, I don't care who's in the White House, there is another house that said if we'll fight, he'll fight our battles. If we stand up, he'll hold us up. So as we leave here today, I say to this family, I know that years ago we told them, Reverend Jackson told us, keep hope alive. Yeah. Then I know that President Obama wrote a book about hope. But I want you to know in my life, there's times that I lost hope. Things can happen like this that'll dash your hope. But there's something that is sister to hope called faith. Faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things unseen. Faith is when you got a pile of bills and no money, but you say he will provide all of my needs. Faith is when you got no medicine in the cabinet and you're sick in your body, but you say he's a doctor that never lost a patient and he'll dry tears from my eyes. Faith is when your friends walk out, when your loved ones turn their back, but you say, I don't believe he brought me this far to leave me now. We didn't come this far by luck. We didn't come this far by some fate. We come this far by faith, leaning on the Lord, trusting in his holy word. He never failed me yet. From the outhouse to the White House, we come a long way. God will, God shall, God will, God always has. He'll make a way for his children. Go on home, George. Get your rest, George. You changed the world, George. We're going to keep marching, George. We're going to keep fighting, George. We done turned the clock, George. We're going forward, George. Time out. Time out. Time out. Hezekiah Walker. We asked gospel great Hezekiah Walker to sing a song for the family. After which, Derek Johnson of the NAACP asked me Attorney Crump, we're going to stand for 8 minutes and 46 seconds. Though that was the time that George was on the ground. And we want you all over the world to stand with us for 8 minutes and 46 seconds and make that commitment for justice in the name of George. I want to thank the members of the Congressional Black Caucus for being with us. Won't you stand? I want to thank the son and heir and co-convener, Dr. Martin Luther King III, for being with us. I want to thank the mayor and the governor and their brides for being with the family. Senator Amy Klobuchar of the state of Minnesota. I want to thank my mentor and one who's fought this fight for more than a half a century. Reverend Jesse Lewis Jackson is with us. And his spokesman for Rainbow Push, Jonathan Luther Jackson. I want to thank from the entertainment world, Kevin Hart. He told me don't mention he's here, so don't clap. Stand up, Kevin. We joke each other. Brother Beloved, stand up, brother. Brother Ludacris. Tyrese Gibson, who's an extraordinary activist in his own right. Master P. The one and only, the creative genius, Will Packard, is with us today. And a brother that we've marched together and done a lot of things. He does not just put his name on somebody's petition, he puts his body on the line. Brother T.I. is in the house. I want this brother's one of the greatest gospel singers alive. Is Tiffany here? Oh, wait a minute. I didn't want to announce and say I embarrassed her. Let me tell you something. One of the most popular, outstanding artists that is also committed. I've read her interview. She think I'm old and don't read stuff, but I do. And she's been committed and saying the right things, and she wanted to be here today. And I was so busy joking with Kevin, I didn't even look at her. Let us welcome our sister beloved, Sister Tiffany Haddish is in the house. Well, I'm going to announce all the rest. Wait a minute, y'all don't start introducing folk. I got them all. Let us hear a selection from Brother Hezekiah Walker.
God bless everybody. Let's have some church for a little while. Y'all ready to have some church? I came all the way from Brooklyn, New York to do this for George and the family. The song says, every praise, amen, is unto our God. Let's do it. Come on, let's stand to our feet, everybody. Come on. Come on. Put your hands together. Come on. Come on, come on, come on. Come on. Every praise, come on.
Every praise
is to our God.
It's to our God.
Every word of worship.
Every word of worship.
With one accord.
With one accord.
Every praise.
Every praise.
Every praise.
Every praise.
To our God.
It's to our God.
Yeah. Sing hallelujah.
Sing hallelujah.
Oh.
To our God.
Glory hallelujah.
Glory hallelujah.
Is Give me a part right here. Come on. God, my Savior. God, my healer. God, my deliverer. Yes, he is. Yes, he is. You say it now. God, my Savior. God, my Savior. God, my healer. God, my healer. God, my deliverer. Yes, he is. Yes, he is. Yes, he is. Yes, he is. God, my Savior. God, my Savior. God, my healer. God, my healer. God, my deliverer. God, my deliverer. Yes, he is. 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 Every praise. Every praise. To our God. To our God. Every word of worship. Every word of worship. We want to call it. Want to call. Every praise. 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 All of my worship. Every praise. All of my praise. Every praise. When you see me dancing. Every praise. Every praise. Every praise. When you see me shouting. Every praise. 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 To our God. To our God. Every praise. Every praise. To our God. To our God.
As Mike, all right, as we remain standing, I want to recognize Clyde Bellecourt of the American Indian Movement. Brother Bellecourt, we're honored that you came. Thank you. And let me say, they recognize someone yelled out the state chair of the NAACP and many of Black Lives Matter, many of the grassroots organizations that have been doing the protests on the ground in Minneapolis and around the country. Movements are about everybody. We don't exclude anybody. Those young folks, some of them organic, some organized on their own, some NAACP, some Urban League, some National Action Network. We need everybody. This is not a competition. This is a movement. And we need to stop our competing and start fighting the real enemy. Thank you for doing what y'all are doing. When I got here, they were marching, and they kept marching. They didn't need nobody to come organize something. They organized, and we're going to stay organized. And I really thank them for their work. We want to pause for 8 minutes and 46 seconds. I want you, because of the pandemic, I'm not going to ask you to take hands, but I want you to stand next to someone with the right distance. The amazing thing about this movement, people say they never seen marches all over. We had that, but we never had in a pandemic. The reason I know this is a different time is people came out to stand up. People that had been sheltered in broke out of shelter. First flight I took was to come here in many weeks. And maybe in God's own way, Martin, the fact we were sheltered means we couldn't watch sports, couldn't watch nothing. We had to keep watching that tape. Maybe because we had no distractions, that finally we're ready to deal with this. So as we stand, I would like us to stand together, and I think there's only one woman up here. I want Tiffany, since I was disrespectful, would you come stand with us up here? Tiffany Haddish, so you won't be talking about me in your next interview. And I would like the mother of Eric Garner, who's mother of the one who originally died of police custody, saying, "I can't breathe," to stand with me and Ben Crump on stage. It's Gwen Carr. Let us stand. Somebody said, "Reverend, 8 minutes is a long time." That minute was long enough for the police to understand what they were doing. That means it was long enough for one of them 3 cops to stop what was going on. That means it was long enough for whatever this officer had in mind for him to rethink. As you go through these long 8 minutes, think about what George was going through, laying there for those 8 minutes, begging for his life. Heard someone say, narrating his own death. We can't let this go. We can't keep living like this. Sam Jackson, is Sam still here? Steve Jackson, is he here? Steve, we won't recognize, I was recognizing everybody. We got to stop this here. And we got to, in this time, bring about a new season. Let us stand still. You that believe in faith, bow your heads, or whichever way you worship. That's a long time. If we've calculated with the clock here, that's how long he was laying there. There's no excuse. They had enough time. They had enough time. Now what will we do with the time we have? As we usher the family out, please let us take them out first. They have to prepare to go to North Carolina and then back Houston, where we will do the final services. They appreciate you all for coming. Let everybody else be seated but the family. Reverend Bryant, will you come quickly? Give us a benediction. Just a benediction. And we're going to take the family out. Everyone else remain in your seats.
You'll remain where you are for the benediction. Good and gracious God, merciful Master, walk with us while we run this race. Speak to us as we lift our voice. Use our hands so that they do not become fists. Change our hearts so that our rage will shift to rehabilitation. Convict the country so it can finally be the land of the free and the home of the brave. We pray this prayer in the name of an innocent black man by the name of Jesus, who was killed by a government and still rose again. And with that power, we march on until victory is won.
We are
Let's usher the family.
Excuse me, we need everyone to be seated except the family. Please, everyone, please be seated except the family. Let's, please, everyone, please remain in your seat as we escort this family out. Thank you so much. Please, we need everyone to remain seated. Come on, can y'all please remain seated for a minute till we escort the family out? Please, let's escort this family out. Thank you so much for your cooperation. Thank you so much.
What a day of rejoicing that will be when we all see Jesus.
I see the family has grown.
We will sing and shout victory. We will sing.
Please, let's let the family leave, please. Can we please let the family exit the building? Thank you for respecting this family. Thank all those who respected the family.
We will sing and shout victory. We will sing and shout victory. We will sing and shout victory. We will sing and shout victory.
A very moving memorial service for George Floyd in Minneapolis, where he died. And it ended with 8 minutes and 46 seconds, a moment of silence marking the exact time that a white police officer put his knee on George Floyd's neck, taking the life out of him. It was extremely moving to hear the family of George Floyd, some of his siblings and nephew talk about him as a gentle giant. They called him the general. They said they didn't have much, but they had each other. And they said they're going to miss his loving hug. And wherever he went, people were touched by him. He was a natural leader. It featured a eulogy, and it was a rousing speech from Al Sharpton, the Reverend, talking about the need for justice and saying at the end that this is the time, unlike so many other times when we have been down this awful road before in cases of injustice. The Reverend Sharpton saying that after seeing so many young whites marching in protest, joining black people, civil rights leaders, calling out the injustice of white cops killing black citizens, he said this is a different time and season. He said we won't stop till we change the system of justice. All right, that is the scene there in Minnesota, but we're going to take you back to New York, and this is the scene of, it looks like, thousands of people marching across the Brooklyn Bridge. It is the conclusion of a memorial service that began at Cadman Plaza in Brooklyn, and it featured a very, very moving statement from the brother of George Floyd, Terrence Floyd. We tried to play it for you a little bit earlier. We had some technical difficulties, so now we're going to play the entire speech that he gave about an hour or so ago in its entirety. So let's listen in to what Terrence Floyd had to say about his brother in Brooklyn.
We are George Floyd! So I want want you guys to give a very warm welcome to my friend and the reason why we're here, Terrence Floyd, the brother of George Floyd.
Take your time.
Love you, Terrence.
First and foremost, I want to thank God. I was mad, I was upset, but I want to thank God. It wasn't his fault. It was his purpose. It was his will. It took me a few days to come to that realization, but I want to thank God.
Amen.
Because at the end of the day, my brother's gone, but the Floyd name still lives on. I'm here in Brooklyn, from Brooklyn. I'm just thankful. I'm thankful. I hear about the memorials going on in Minnesota. I hear about, I got a call from a friend. He's in Australia. He said there's a movement going on over there. I hear it all going on over the world. But I feel so good knowing that my borough, I thank God for y'all. And for my friends in Queens. I'm not gonna leave y'all out, because I was living there too. I thank God for y'all too. I know y'all showed up. I got people in the Bronx too. Matter of fact, we're just gonna go with the 5 boroughs. How about that? How about that? We just gonna do it like that. I'm not gonna leave nobody out. Well, he's the mayor of New York, so I'm not gonna leave nobody out. The 5 boroughs, we're gonna leave it at that. I thank God for y'all. I thank God for y'all showing love to my brother. I don't have too much to say. I think I said it all in Minnesota. But I'm just gonna say this. I'm proud of the protest, but I'm not proud of the destruction. I'm gonna say that again. I'm proud of the protest, but I'm not proud of the destruction. My brother wasn't about that. The Floyd is a God-fearing family. And I want to thank, oh goodness, so many names. He came up here. His father was Timothy Wright. And I grew up hearing the songs of Timothy Wright, who was on the lower side. I grew up going in Washington Temple. Brooklyn. Trouble don't last always. So those names ring in my spirit. Because I knew that man. And to see his son come up here and represent and sound just like his dad, it did my heart glad. I'm just so happy. But I want to say this. Power to the people. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Did you hear me? Did you hear me? I said power to the people. Not just my people. Not just your people. Not just the people they think is important or whatever. I'm talking about power to the people. All of us. Peace on the left. Peace on the left. I want to see the signs. Peace on the left. Thank you. I have a request. I don't want to take too much time. But as I stand here, this song that's playing right now, a very, very good friend of mine.
So we've been down like the bottom floor, been knocked down and we have before. And no matter how they try, they cannot take us up. Why the devil wanna see us gone? We ain't been a problem to nobody but ourselves, I mean it. This is crazy, we can't live. Man, I'm tired of having to go and had to explain this to my kids for real. And what's the answer? I don't know. But I only know one thing, and that's for sure. This really feels like war. Yeah, it 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 feels like war. R.P. George Floyd, R.P. Garner. You reach the edge and then they push us farther. Like what you want us to do, they doing wrong and then they hide behind the blue. I'm telling you. The president, instead of trying to make peace, he's calling out his plan for war up in these streets. But we never bend, we never fall. All that we pray to leave us alone. All of the mothers is crying, the sons of the dying just want to be safe in a home. Like war.
So we're going to leave it there, but that was just about an hour ago. Terrence Floyd, the brother of George Floyd, Brooklyn resident, speaking at the memorial for George Floyd, who died a week ago Monday after an white officer at the time put his knee on Floyd's neck, killing him over a period of 8 minutes, 46 seconds. It was quite a moving ceremony there. We heard from the mayor and some elected officials, Jumaane Williams and the public advocate, and Tish James, the Attorney General of New York State, along with others. But the climax was what you just saw there, Terrence Floyd. And he said, I'm proud of the protests. I am not proud of the destruction. He said that several times. And that is the message that they wanted to send from that Brooklyn Memorial in Cadman Plaza. What we're showing you there are the overhead shots there, and the crowd that gathered in Cadman Plaza, more than 1,000 strong, marched at the conclusion of that memorial over the Brooklyn Bridge. It's about 1.5 miles, and their destination, Foley Square, where the protest and the memorial will continue. But we want to go back to Cadman Plaza. That's where our Janine Ramirez is standing by, and she was observing the entire event today, and we want to get some concluding observations from her. Janine, how did it go?
Roma, it was an event that started late but packed a big punch. The memorial for George Floyd here in Brooklyn that lasted about 2 hours drew hundreds of people. And now, of course, it served as a tribute to the memory of George Floyd and a call to end police brutality and promote the end of racism. But it also served as an opportunity for the crowd to publicly rebuke Mayor de Blasio, who showed up here, and they booed him and they called for him to resign. And then public advocate Jumaane Williams piled on.
People came out of their house because a pandemic led by inept leaders like this mayor and this governor caused tens of thousands of people to die, and most of them are black and brown. That was on their chest too.
Now, some activists left this rally today saying they didn't appreciate the elected officials taking part. They called it a dog and pony show. But there are others, most people stayed throughout the whole event, saying they stayed because of the powerful message this rally sends.
Everyone was booing, shouting, "Shame on you, resign. We don't like your curfew," in less nice terms. Yeah, and no one wanted to hear him speak. Of course, the Floyd family asked everyone to be respectful, and so people wanted to respect that, but it was hard. Everyone was pretty disgusted.
This is very important. It's very important for everybody. The whole world is slouching. And it's about time, and I hope changes are made. And for me, the number one thing is voting. That everybody votes.
I've been watching this for years. I'm a great-grandmother, over 68 years old. I'm tired of the murder. These are the new lynchings. Just bust in houses, shoot people and ask questions later, kneel on them until they die, chokeholds. It's just horrible. And people need to get together as they're doing here peacefully and eventually have some new laws enacted to protect people.
Roma, as you mentioned, also here was Attorney General Letitia James. She was calling for justice. She has also launched an investigation into the violent protest and the police conduct surrounding those protests over the last few days. But I can tell you this protest and this rally and this memorial was very peaceful, no violence whatsoever. And the protesters then walked over the Brooklyn Bridge, which is just steps away from here, where they're now going to rally over in Foley Square. That's the latest here from Cadman Plaza Park. I'm Janine Ramirez. Roma, let's go back to you.
Janine, it must have been kind of awkward, though, when we heard the mayor speaking with his wife, Shirlane McCray, and then just moments later, there was Jumaane Williams blasting the mayor. Interestingly, Kevin McCall, the civil rights leader who I guess organized this whole event, did try to quell the crowd, initially saying, don't boo him, but I guess it didn't work.
Right. I mean, he's been calling for peace, right? So Reverend McCall, who also went to Minneapolis earlier this week with the family of George Floyd to go to the site where George Floyd was killed, he called for peace. He called for nonviolence. He called for people to be kind to one another. He's a reverend, right? He's a civil rights leader. And that was his message there in Minneapolis. And that was his message here today, that we are one to continue to keep the pressure on, to continue to rally, but to do it in a peaceful manner. And they didn't want the mayor, they invited the mayor, and they didn't want the mayor booed while he was on the stage. So, yeah, he was calling for messages of peace and love.
Yeah, but all in all, it went pretty well, although it's kind of unfortunate that a lot of the people gave bad reviews to the elected officials. I had mentioned that we heard from Tish James in addition to Jumaane Williams and the mayor and his wife. Janine Ramirez, thanks so much for your excellent coverage, but we're going to head back to Foley Square now, and that's where our Rocco Bertuccio is standing by as the crowd is making its way across the Brooklyn Bridge to that destination. Rocco, how's it looking now?
Hi, Roma. That was quite a sight. Thousands of those marchers walking across the Brooklyn Bridge. They've made it across to the Manhattan side, walked a couple of blocks from the entrance of the bridge by City Hall, by police headquarters. Very significant because they're looking for justice. And they ended up here, a couple blocks away over Foley Square. Some of them are here now in this crowd where they will continue their march and their protest as they have been doing throughout the past few days here. And when they got here, when they made it over the Brooklyn Bridge, they were greeted by a couple of hundred protesters waiting for them, cheering them on. We spoke with a couple of the people who marched over the bridge. They said it was quite an afternoon being at that memorial, listening to the words, especially from Terrence Floyd, George Floyd's younger brother, when he said that his brother is gone, but his name lives on, and now it's up to these protesters to make sure that he did not die in vain. He encouraged them to continue protesting peacefully. And throughout the past few days, these protests have been, for the most part, peaceful. Are continuing here at this hour. A lot of them have left, dispersed, and gone on to other locations, other protests throughout the city. They've been chanting George Floyd's name and the so many other names of men and women who have died because of police brutality, and that's what they are trying to end, Roma. You know, it's so easy to forget sometimes during these rallies and marches and protests, through the loud cheers and chants and noises and the signs, that they really do want specific change. They want accountability. They want justice. They want transparency within police departments. And that's what they want to accomplish, and they won't stop, they say, until they get that accomplished. They want real change, something on paper that will make a difference. And so many people that we've spoken to today and throughout the past several days, they really feel that this is different. And the reason why is when they look into these crowds, they see people of all different races, all